Call to order. Flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open Public Meetings Act statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law is enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Augusta, Branchville, Lafayette, and Sussex post offices, and notice sent to the New Jersey Herald, Star Ledger, Clerk of the Boroughs of Branchville and Sussex, and townships of Frankfort, Lafayette, and Wantage. Mission statement. High Point Regional High School, in partnership with staff, family, and community, is dedicated to the quest for individual excellence. By fostering high standards of achievement, we prepare students to become responsible and productive members of a diverse society. Roll call.
Mrs. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Encliffe.
Here.
Mr. Dunn.
Here.
Mr. Kehoe is not here. Ms. Keimer.
Here.
Mr. Miller is not here. Mr. Notaro.
Here.
Mr. Bealey.
Here.
Mr. Voicu.
Here.
Dr. Ripley.
Here.
Okay. Executive session, motion was made to High Point Regional High School Board of Education enter executive session to provide an update on personnel, legal and negotiations items which are exempt from public participation pursuant to New Jersey Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Act. Any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential will be made public when appropriate. Minutes of the executive session will not be disclosed until the need for confidentiality no longer exists. The board will reconvene a public session in the cafeteria annex at the conclusion of executive session. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Return to public session.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And we'll move on to the approval of minutes for the regular meeting minutes of September 18, 2018. The executive session minutes for September 18, 2018. Need a motion?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Keimer.
Here.
Mr. Notaro. Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Voicu.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Encliffe.
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Bealey.
Yes. Public comments on agenda items only, in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. We'll open the public comments for agenda items only at this time. Each speaker should step to the podium, state his or her name and address. We'll have 3 minutes to address us, which will be timed by me. We will limit this section to no longer than 45 minutes. Please be respectful and mindful that your comments are being recorded. Anybody? No? All right, presentation. We will move on to the public hearing on student safety data system incident report. Ms. Lindsay will do new assistant principal. Hello.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hope everybody's having a good night. I'm a little nervous, but we'll get there. All right, so tonight I'll be presenting the 2017-2018 SSDS report, it's formerly known as HPRHS. SSDS is our student safety data system. So what gets reported, it's a breakdown of violence, vandalism, weapons, substance abuse, and HIV. Within those topics, there is a breakdown of what falls under violence, what falls under vandalism, and so on. And so I have a chart that's going to come up that's going to compare the previous 4 years and just kind of see where the consistency is and so kind of shrunk. So 2014, 2015, all the way up to 2017, 2018. I would say there's some consistency when you take a look at 2014, 2015 to 2017, 2018. A couple outliers here and there, but for the most part, we're doing everything we can, and I'll go through that as well to improve these numbers and to work on areas that need improvement.
You said you're gonna go through each one of those categories and explain to us? Okay,
Yeah, so
sure.
you'll see what the 21 comes from.
That is a good question.
All right. So the breakdown for violence: 6 assaults, 9 fights, 4 threats, 2 sexual contact, substance abuse. There's 9 confirmed use, 5 possession, 1 distribution. And as for weapon vandalism, 0. And so vandalism is anything from breaking a locker to, I don't know, pulling a fire alarm, anything like that. And the other breakdowns are pretty self-explanatory. As for HIBs, we had 7 confirmed, 14 were investigated. We do have our HIB protocol. Mr. Craig deals with HIBs specifically, and so assistant principals do get involved and we'll sit down and interview students. Once we cross all our T's, dot all our I's, we determine whether or not it is a HIB, and if it is, it gets recorded. If it's not, and so this is what we've been doing to improve these numbers. Intense focus on relationships and strengthening trust. Communication, that's, I think, the biggest piece. Communicating with parents, communicating with teachers, communicating with students, letting them know that there's a support system in place, that we're here for them, we're here to support them. EDGE program, which Mr. Blevins is truly dedicated to, having students get involved with that program. Suite 360, something new that we're doing this year. If you're not familiar with it, we've been using it for our Saturday detentions. We're implementing it in our extracurricular activities as well as our sports. And what it is, it's a character education program. It consists of modules, and each module that you pick, you can assign it specifically to either a student or a group of students. And so, for example, if you have a student that's in Saturday detention for cutting class or vaping or any of that type of thing, you can actually pick a specific module and assign it to that student that focuses on vaping. And the breakdown of it is a series of questions, a video that they can watch, another series of questions, open-ended questions, possibly another video, and at the end they have to complete a quiz. If they don't score high enough, they have to take the module all over again. And so that's one of the programs that we're implementing, that we're hoping that eventually we can branch it out to the teachers, and then they can use it in their classrooms as well. Pass It Along. We had a program in September where Pass It Along came to school. It was great. We had all the freshman classes during their health classes meet with the Pass It Along representatives. It's a great program. Response to intervention in INRS. Mr. Van Orden is the advisor for INRS and being consistent in that. Like I said, communication, CST, guidance. Anytime a referral comes across our desk as assistant principals, we make sure that we communicate very well with CST, just to make sure that we know the full story, and then we investigate what we need to investigate. Parental engagement, that's another thing that Mr. Van Orden and I have been very consistent with this year. Sometimes things occur and parents say, I didn't know that was going on, and so it's been our goal this year so far to just make sure parents are very aware of what's going on in the school. So classroom visits and presentations, Mr. Van Orden, Mr. Talamy, and myself spent the month of September stopping in classrooms and doing presentations, whether it was, it varied from school discipline and what our expectations are to digital citizenship and all areas of what our expectations are for the school year. This week is actually Violence Awareness Week, so we have a folder created where all teachers just drop in the lessons that they're implementing within their classroom on violence awareness. So we make sure that all content areas are completing at least one lesson based on violence awareness. Week of Respect, that was I believe 2 weeks ago, and so we spent the week just doing all different types of respect activities throughout the building. It was great. You saw the school spirit, you saw the students were completely, involved, excited, so it was really nice to see that. And then face-to-face Fridays. So what we're doing every other week, we have our student council members going into classrooms and talking to students, letting them know what's going on in the building. Us as administrators and teachers don't send emails on face-to-face Fridays unless it's a dire emergency. And so what we've been trying to push is communication. So if there's an issue, go see that student, go see that teacher, go talk to your administrator. And I think sometimes with technology nowadays, we tend to lose that part of communication. So that's one of our main focuses. Any questions?
Yes, I do. Back to your first slide, there was an early slide, 4 different years of that. The violence is upsetting to me when I see that. I understand, Ms. Leduc, you have not been here, this is your first September, so you're not particularly involved in all of that happened. But where we were at 17 incidences, and then down to 14, and then down to 5, because I'm reading across for all of you that aren't paying enough attention, but how the heck do we get back up to 21? It's upsetting. And the fact that a lot of the things that you just presented have been in place, the INRS, the EDGE program, they've been in place. So to jump like that's just so drastic. The rest of them don't look so bad except for the substance abuse, and maybe they're related somehow, I don't know.
The numbers stood out to me as well, and I will say, I think, previously being a classroom teacher and seeing every year you just get a different group of students. And sometimes you get that group of freshmen that come in and you're like, wow, what are we going to do with them? And they just have an impactful year on these numbers and all the data, and then we work on it and we get better.
Are you telling me that, are you telling the board that 21 is because of the freshman class?
No. What I'm saying is
That's kind of what I'm asking you though.
No, I'm not
specifying
specifying that.
Explanation.
Ms. Anderson, may I speak to that?
Yes.
I would say for since 2008, their numbers were peaked at one year at 84 was our highest number when it was called HPRHS previously. That probably 21 is not necessarily a consistent number, but consistent with the other three numbers. I think probably 2016, 2017 for a variety of variables. Something that Mr. Duke described in terms of the number of students that you have, the kind of students that you have, the mix of students that you have, and also that you know that decisions that they may make. We're required by law to report what's defined in these categories. And I think that probably the 17, 14-ish number, 21 this past year, is probably relatively consistent if you look back at even years before that of where it had been. For a population of 1,000 kids, that's probably pretty consistent with that. I don't know why the 5 was lower that year. I can just speak out of the fact that we have consistently reduced that number. I think if you take out that 1 year of 16, 17, we're pretty consistent with our decline, or at least our numbers, our percentage of decline overall. Going back to your question about substance abuse, 18 to 15, again, a variety of factors. Our society in general, our county is struggling with substance abuse. Life Point is a microcosm of that. We're not immune to that in any way, shape, or form. Our job is to educate and hopefully get students help that may be identified through our staff and through our resources. Just as you don't like it, Mrs. Anderson, or the rest of the board, I don't like it either. But I have stood up here for 10 years now and said that we report our numbers as we're required to report our numbers, and we have declined. Again, I don't have the 4 or 5 years before that right off my hand. I did know we were at a peak of 84 at 1 year. I believe it was 2008, 2009, and we've reduced that significantly over the course of time. That's a total number I'm talking about. To where if you look at 36 plus 7, not great with math, but that's less than 84. So there's been a decline. I don't know why that number 16, 17 was so low. Sometimes it does happen with the way the data is in terms of, again, fight, that type of category. Assault is an aggressive word in my mind, but that's how the state defines it. And assault really is defined as, Seamus and I, it's one person versus 2 people engaged in that situation. Not that fast. So that's just a little bit different. So I think that's me speaking about it. I don't like it either, but I think it is consistent with where we've been overall over the course of time. Our goal is some of the examples that Mrs. Duke spoke about before, is to try to be proactively ahead of those situations for decision making and support for students before they get in those situations. And that really has been where Mrs. Duke's really focused in the beginning, almost 2 months now, is how can we proactively resolve these situations so they don't become issues down the road. But ultimately, students still make sometimes their own decisions. We had one this year, we spoke to you about this 2 or 3 times, we still made a poor decision. Why? How do we not do this same decision again later on? So that's kind of an overview. I don't know if that answers your question directly, but right where you are, I like to see that it was zeros across there, but that's not realistic. Although some schools do report that. We have to figure it out.
Thank you, Mr. Talman, was here. Thank you.
Just a follow-up question, in terms of substance abuse, is smoking and or vaping included in that number, or is that calculated somewhere else?
No, sir. So vaping is not included in substance abuse as defined by the state underneath this aspect of it. We do obviously keep our statistics on vaping.
overall, but it's not included in that category. Unless the student is also have other paraphernalia that's involved and is under the influence, then it could be considered in that number. Does that make sense, Mr. Miller?
Yes.
But overall, not. But we do keep track of that, have to keep track of that separately, even though it's not part of the statement.
Just to wrap it up, I know, one thing, Mr. Bannon and I came together at the beginning of the year, and our goal was to be consistent across the board. And so I think we have been trying our best to nip certain things in the bud, build relationships with students. Some of our most frequent flyers that, we were given a heads up about in the beginning of the year have worked phenomenally with us, and just, a different changing character, coming to us, letting us know, hey, I'm in a bad mood, I'm not sure what's going to happen, and coming to us first. And we've seen a lot of that within the last month. And so I'm very proud to say that we're able to build those relationships so far, and hopefully we can just continue it. So hopefully next year I'll stand here, and can't guarantee it, but the numbers will be close.
A question on that, do we have any indication in the current year if we're on track for the 16, 17 numbers, or 17, 18? Is that something we track? I know these are end of the year numbers, but
We keep monthly suspension reports, and so those monthly suspension reports, a student can get suspended for something that wouldn't fall under SRC.
right.
But those specific areas, so for example, somebody in possession of, let's say, marijuana or something like that.
If we see those numbers, I'm just
Right,
curious
you
how
get the
it relates
report.
to these more.
We do track that. We do track that on a monthly basis, like we said. Suspension report is one thing. It's usually a pretty close, estimate of that. There are some things that aren't necessarily reported on this report that are still suspensionable issues, but we do track that on a monthly basis. And right now, currently, we're in pretty good shape.
I think we're
Yep,
looking,
in the first month.
we're looking pretty good.
Yep.
Is there any other questions?
Mr.
Can I speak to one thing about these stats too, and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Some of these stats, the way they're classified, you can have one incident fall into multiple categories. So if you have a fight, it can be a fight, but it also can be an assault. So the more fights you have, they get categorized as a fight and an assault in some cases. So the more fights you have, some of them go down as just a fight if it's a mutual pushing and shoving match. But if someone strikes someone else, and then the fight ensues afterwards, that would get classified as a fight and an assault.
So the same incident?
The same incident could be classified in multiple categories. So another example is, for some of those things said sexual assault. So some of those categories, I'm aware that those sexual assaults were categorized as violence, but they were also categorized as HIB falling under sexual assault. So it's not that each one of these is even a single incident. They can be categorized, one incident can be categorized as multiple categories. So it doesn't mean that each one of these numbers represents a single incident. Some of them are multiple categories.
So the assault with a weapon can fall under assault. All right, thank you very much for having me. Have a good night.
All right, student council, Dr. Ridley is going to read a statement.
Due to the fact that we now live in the rainforest, there was an athletic event that was rescheduled, which included our student council speaker to be present this evening. So I'm going to read her report, if you would indulge me. Student council highlights, Face-to-Face Friday. When we have a Face-to-Face Friday, Mrs. Schaefer assigns student council representatives to any classroom with a first block class. Reps check in with their first block teacher, then go to their assigned rooms where they write announcements on the board, then read aloud the announcements in more detail. This only takes a few minutes, and the rep is typically done by the time the first block teacher takes attendance and is ready to begin the lesson. We had nice participation in our Spirit Week. Monday was Hawaiian Shirt Day, Tuesday was Tie-Dye Day, Wednesday was Red, White, and Blue Day, Thursday was Throwback Thursday, and Friday was Class Colors Day. Homecoming was a success, and Kate Finnegan was crowned queen. Everyone had fun at the dance the next evening where Chad Frisbee was crowned king. The fall pep rally was moved inside, and the main event was changed from a powder puff football game to volleyball game, and it was great. Lots of school spirit. The concession stand has been exceptionally successful this year, and our bank account balance is currently $1,878.83, and all bills are paid. Thank you.
All right, HPEA, Carla Mancuso.
I just want to say one thing, the board doesn't bite. We met with them for 2 hours, and they didn't bite us. Thank you. Then, going to key over here to thank all of you for speaking with us for 2 hours. And it's a good sign that we can talk without biting, so to speak. And we will go on. Our other concerns are our professional development and PLCs. It seems that the information has gone out, but the literacy across the curriculum is of concern because math, English, PE, and we go on and on, have not been trained for literacy across the curriculum. But now we have this new initiative with the LTK, is that what it's called? Mr. Campbell, is that what it is?
LTK, I'm sorry.
Lincoln.
Oh, Lincoln.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's LTK, or what are we calling it?
Lincoln.
There is a software platform called Lincoln. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if that's what
Yeah,
you're referring
Lincoln,
to.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, Lincoln, yeah. Good.
Okay. Lincoln, for most of it, it has been thrust upon us, and I am the reading specialist, was the reading specialist, I am a reading specialist, and it's difficult when you go to standards. Some of us have not been taught to drive ourselves through literacy through standards, and this system, I believe, is based on standards. So, as far as the information has come out, it looks like a lot of time, not that we're opposed to time, but it's taking it from our prep time for our classes that we have to teach. Our regular goal-oriented standards are SGOs and what has to be done. So I just would like for the board to understand that we need you folks to look at it and see where's PLC, PDP, where are we crossing the lines as far as word ownership to our own classrooms are in retrospect to this initiative, which has been thrust upon us. So I think, as I can speak for the people, our constituency that's here tonight, to say they're not trained in literacy instruction, and yet we can do English, we can do standard LA 9.1A, and we all know what that is, and for in English. But to further go along as far as we're taking this whole system to say we're benchmarking our kids and saying it's literacy instruction, but it's not across the curriculum. So we need you as a guidance to say, where are we really focusing? Where are we spending the money? And what's the teacher's responsibility to go further with this? Because it seems so obscure at this point. We know we have benchmarking, and we're supposed to be looking at this, and we're supposed to be looking at that, but where is our individual responsibility and how we're going to measure that across the board? Because I'm confused. And we had an HPA meeting today, and our teachers said to me, what are we supposed to be doing here? I'm supposed to be teaching reading and PE, and how can I do that? And I said, well, I don't really know what the initiative is, but when I was in college, at Trent State College, we did rules, and I had to do rules, and we had to do writing of the rules, and this and that. But when you have a class of 50, a class that's 9th grade through 12th grade in PE, it's kind of difficult to say where we're benchmarking them. So we have a lot of obscurities that are going on, so we would like guidance from that as to where you want us to go. We have no problem going where you want us to go, but what's the clarity as far as our professional responsibility alongside our teaching of our core content standard classes? And we would like for that clarification. likely to fall, I think it's here. And thank you again, Board of Ed, for listening to us. Thank you.
Mr. Tellman, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Feely. Good evening again, everybody. So everybody, I didn't get a chance to say about the one from Wayne. You know, I don't like standing with the back to one side versus the other, so I try to go back and forth. Just want to say thank you to Mrs. Leduc. She's been an outstanding addition to our team. She's doing great things in her first month and a half, so we're very appreciative to have her here. We had a successful back to school night. Some of you attended as parents, so hopefully you felt the same. Outstanding staff, thank you to our staff for back to school night. We had a lot of outstanding comments back from our parents about how engaging the discussions were, how much we cared for their kids, and that came across over and over again. We heard that from many different parents throughout the night. Thank you to our custodial staff, again, our maintenance staff, for getting our beautiful facilities up and running. And maintaining them at such a high level. So that was a very good night overall. As Dr. Ripley said, with Mrs. Weiss's report, we had a fantastic Spirit Week a couple weeks ago where the student council led the charge, and we're trying to build more and more of that student community around many different ideas. We also had the Week of Respect. As you've heard me probably say before, I think the Week of Respect should be all year long. The state identifies, as they are right now with the Violence Awareness Week, that there's one dedicated week to that recognition. Our goal is to spread that throughout the year. One of our focuses, as Mr. Duke spoke about, some of the initiatives. That's an important thing. Our SAVE students, Mrs. Frisbee led our Start Hello campaign, which you've probably seen all over social media now at this point, which is actually an initiative started from the Sandy Hook Foundation. And it simply is that sometimes it's as simple as a start with hello conversation with another student that you may not know to help them get through the day, or just have them build a relationship with somebody that they may not know. So that was a great initiative. That was part of that. And again, that continues throughout the year, not just in 1 week. We had the PSAT on October 10th, led by Mr. Diodino. We had over 700 students that tested for the PSAT. Thank you again to our staff for helping facilitate that. It's quite an undertaking to have that many students take a test at one time. And Mr. Diodino did a fantastic job coordinating that. So kudos to him for that. Just as of today, we had 20 students from Waldorf, Germany that began their visits to High Point. They're here shadowing students that will be in the school actually for 4 days amongst an itinerary of about 2 weeks. So they're here today. We had a meet and greet in the media center. Mr. Berger has reported that as well, and they're looking forward to a great cultural experience. As I watched them today in the media center, they had basically like a scavenger hunt that they had to kind of perform with each other and get to know each other, and that was obviously difficult, the language barrier, because not all of our students spoke German, not all of the German students spoke English, so there was a lot of hand gestures going on and things of that nature for that, so that was off to a good start. I always like to give a report in the fall on our social media ambassadors program. I think Mr. Fenlon was here. Where's he at? Mr. Fenlon is right behind me. Started that program in the 3rd year, I think, if correct, our 3rd year. For that, we have 24 social media ambassadors that have sent out and spread, bless you, sent out and spread over 8,200 tweets since we started that program. So if you can magnify that and say, where would High Point be on the social media PR map without that program? And as Mr. Fenlon and I have talked about that for the course of the last several years, it has now become a model for other students and other schools to follow, and really doing some great things. So kudos to that. We're very excited about the next up and coming group of students because we have some strong seniors that are graduating that program. We have a virtual speaker that we'll have next week on the 22nd, Josh Ox, right? Yes. That we'll be speaking to the students and talking about digital citizenship, and he's a world-renowned speaker that speaks all over the world and the country. We're going to be virtually having a field trip for him in the building, so it's going to be a good initiative and a good learning experience for our students to engage with him and ask questions of him.
Mr. Talman, who's
Yeah.
going to get to see this virtual?
So that will be all the Media Tech 2, 3, and 4 students as part of their ISTE, is the International Technology Association, and it's kind of a combination that's really focused on digital citizenship. And he's a big push for him. If you look at him on Twitter, that's what he speaks about. He's got about 8 or 9 or 10 books out there about that. And it's going to be part of our digital citizenship pledge for our media students and our social media ambassadors to be part of. So we get another layer of, really not necessarily formality, but of substance that they have behind them for that. The senior dinner cruise is going to be a little later in the fall. It's going to be on the 7th of November this year. It's a little bit different than we've had in the past. We were going to continue our Letter Walls talk at the Digital Learning Committee, as well as our Wellness Committee, to focus on some of the needs of the school. That's going to be staff and students together. We'll continue with that. Some guidance updates is we have the mini college fair actually tomorrow. We have about 50 colleges scheduled to come in, as well as some local businesses, as well as some college and career. Another part of that, we set it up right here at the cafeteria, and we do that over the course of time. So thank you to Mr. Carter, the guidance counselors, for getting that set up. That's a great experience for our juniors and seniors. We have our academic awards night, which is going to be Thursday, November 1st. And that's going to be at 6 o'clock in the media center. And that's 4 marking periods of honor roll and high honor roll. And that's a fall academic achievement award ceremony that we have every year. We also honor AP Scholar recognitions at that time as well. 8th grade tours, we are having them set up. We have had them scheduled already since last spring. They're going to be November 14th and 15th. Where our Senate districts will be split in 2 days, and they'll come in for about an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours, and they'll tour the facilities. They'll see what unit lunch looks like. That's their first step. It's hard to believe we're talking about that already, but right, that's their first step as 8th graders into their transition into High Point. And then we go from there with our other 4 steps as we go throughout the year. So we're excited about having them in. And then we have our fall drama, which I think is on your agenda. I think at the end, right, for tickets. Fall drama is Our Town. Mrs. Riccardi is excited about that program, and that's on the 26th, 27th at 7 p.m. and the 28th at 2 p.m., which is a Sunday show. I'm also excited about a new online ticketing program that we're using this year that many of our schools have gone to. Mr. Carter's excited. She's done a tremendous amount of research on that to make sure it's right for her and her kids and her parents and her program. So we're excited about that too. Any questions about any of those things?
I just have a comment. Thank you for your social media ambassadorship that wakes me up every morning. I can't believe how early you get up and start to read.
Too early.
Thank you very much. I know everything that's going to happen that day or everything that happened yesterday, so thank you.
It actually becomes a challenge, and Mr. Fennell and I actually laugh about it because we challenge students that they usually beat me with information, and I was kind of retweet that out, say, hey, I was going to share that out. Thank you very much. That's the idea of what the programs are about. So thank you. We do try to increase that presence more and more. Mr. Bibb, okay, do you have to move on to the athletic report? Okay, so the athletic report is in order. We have boys soccer is at 3-11, working hard every single day. Girls soccer is 5-6 record. Kick to the Cure game, as long as there's no other weather scheduled. It's going to take place Thursday night at 6 p.m. versus Hackettstown. It's been a crazy fall season. I don't think I don't think we've ever had this amount of weather-related stuff for the fall than as long as I can remember. Field hockey is 4-5. They play pink game, which was also rescheduled for the 27th at 4 p.m. with Pope John. That was rescheduled twice because of weather so far this year. Cross country, boys are 11-0, girls 11-0, both division champs. I didn't get the update. Can we get the update from Mrs. Sunday, which team in? I didn't get it. Third and fourth. They have Greystone today. Third and fourth at Greystone today, so that was great for them. Girls tennis 12-2 record, division champs for the first time in 25 years. That's 1993. Again, checking my math there. Lauren English advanced to the state singles tournament. Football is 3-3. We hosted back on Friday night. Some upcoming events. Senior Parent Night is this Friday night. Football game versus Pacon. The girls' annual Kick for a Cure game for cancer awareness is going to be on Thursday, and the field hockey play maybe is coming on the 27th. Athletes of the week. We put Tyra Wingle for field hockey, Lauren English for tennis, Travis Talent for football, no relation, just kidding. Ethan Billings for cross country. All right, and I just want to make another note here. It's not on Mr. Benoit's report, but it should be. The spring season was very, very difficult weather-wise. The summer season was very difficult for camps weather-wise, and the fall season probably the most difficult season we've ever had. So thank you to his leadership. Scheduling has been a nightmare, to say the least. And he has worked tremendously hard to try to make sure there's a balance, do the best that he can to communicate things out. But it's, as you know, we feel that we don't go 5 hours without it raining in the fall. So I just want to make sure that that's noted that he has done a tremendous job trying to keep everything rescheduled and fields moved around, and locations moved around. It's just been hard to manage for sure. So, any questions on any of that? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right,
Thank you. Did you mention volleyball?
Volleyball,
First
yesterday, yes.
Oh my God.
Volleyball yesterday, as you know, for supporting that. I did send it out on a tweet. We actually had our first victory. So right now we are working as a JV team. We have a large program. We have about 20 or so girls between that. So we had a game yesterday at 5 o'clock, and we had our first W victory. And it's best out of 3 is how it works for High Point history. So it's very exciting for the girls. They were ecstatic. It was also senior night last night for them as well. So it was a really exciting night for them. We haven't got a chance to watch volleyball. That was our last home match, but it's a very exciting match. It's usually about 45 minutes to an hour in terms of how long it lasts, but kudos to Coach Langen and the girls for their first victory. Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Absolutely, thank you. So Saturday, this building was transformed into an Ed Camp pad. I believe some of the artwork is plastered on the wall here or hung on the wall here, and several of our faculty members were participants. This was the brainchild of social studies teacher Jacqueline McCarthy, Ms. Jacqueline McCarthy, who wanted to do something particularly special to support humanities and technology. And once again, we had educators from around the tri-state area, and we had dozens of our own teachers participate in what was a great day. Starts out with you put on a funny costume and take your picture, and sort of sets the mood right away that it's going to be fun. It's a Saturday, and people are here volunteering on their own time. The philosophy behind an Ed Camp is there is no agenda. So Ms. McCarthy sets up a board like that, and she sets up 30 or 40 large Post-its. And if you want to discuss a topic or present about a topic, you simply go up, write the topic on the piece of paper. It could be something as simple as, I'd like to meet with other educators who want to discuss a certain topic, or I have a passion I want to present. Each of those blocks, moving from top to bottom, were 1 hour in length, and we had approximately 97 educators who came here. It's a very gratifying experience to bring outsiders to our facility. It's humbling because it is stunningly beautiful, and our facilities from top to bottom hosted a fantastic event. A little, I might say, nerd humor there. Don't mess with text sets, okay? That's kind of the corny mentality of some of the activities. Again, Ms. McCarthy did a great job, and thank you to our staff who supported the event, and to our Board of Education for their support. So the Ed Camp was fantastic. Our October in-service day was very successful. We had several teachers move out and participate in other activities throughout the county. Most of our staff was here, and the focus was on literacy throughout the curriculum, which is indeed a major focus right now. It's actually the exact same topic as last year's October in-service. So we are now, for the second year in a row, in October and November, using our PLC time to focus on this essential skill. Tomorrow will be my 5th meeting with the entire staff since September. So I've met with our staff on 5 occasions this year. Sorry, 4 occasions. Tomorrow will be my 5th meeting with the staff to patiently and clearly attempt to communicate the importance of literacy, and as we did in October last year, to have an annual focus on the fact that this is a critical skill. So I asked every teacher on the High Point faculty if they agreed with the following statement. Raising young men and women is the most important thing we do. Hard work, character, honesty, etc. But when it comes to academics, is there anything more important than this? And almost every person in this room and every member of our faculty unanimously agreed. It's hard to get 100 people to agree unanimously on something, but this was unanimously something we agreed to. And we focused on it last year as well. I'll get back to literacy in a moment. Speaking of literacy with PSATs. Mr. Talame mentioned that. It is an enormous amount of work to run the PSATs. Mr. Peltier, I believe, helped with this task last year, is that correct? Right? It takes weeks and weeks and weeks, and you have 900 students and 100 staff members asking students to do something challenging and difficult, and it was overwhelmingly successful. I'd also like to add that we have fewer 12th graders this year than any year in the past 5 that have still not passed an assessment for graduation. So students can demonstrate proficiency in PARC, PSAT, SAT, ASVAB, etc. I believe we're down to approximately 12 students. This time last year, we had about 30 seniors who still needed to pass the assessment. So thank you, Mr. Giacchino, on that. There is no more park. So park has been sunsetted or put to rest. The new assessment, which is basically park with a different name, is the New Jersey Student Learning Standards Assessment. Last spring, the Department of Ed crisscrossed the state, and they sought feedback from parents and from teachers and from students about what you think about the park. And overwhelmingly, the feedback that the DOE received was something that I've said for a long time. It's a really good test. The questions are valid. The skills that are assessed are significant. It's simply too long. Asking students to test, in some instances, for 2 to 3 hours a day for 6 consecutive days in May, when it's hot, is to some degree soul crushing. Now, the idea behind PARC originally was the brainchild of a brilliant educator named Barry Ehrlichson. And Barry Ehrlichson's concept for PARC was, we need to give these rigorous assessments in a classroom with a teacher, and then we need to look at the feedback of the data, and we need to test them again in the middle of the year and check for growth. And then we need to measure them a third time in class with their teacher. And that is what we've begun to do this year in-house with the Lincoln platform. PARC is going away. I shouldn't say PARC is going away. PARC is going to be reduced. What the state announced last week is that PARC will go from 6 different subjects that are tested down to either 2 or 4, and every subject that gets tested will go from approximately 3 hours to about an hour and a half. So less time on tests and less subjects tested. I emailed the student body for the PSAT, and I told our juniors and seniors, this may very well be the last standardized test you ever take. So the good news is, for those that are concerned that we overtest our students, is that there is a dramatic decrease in standardized testing. Now, SAT is a fairly well-regarded critical assessment where there is considerable buy-in. This is what the SAT asks students to do for critical reading. Informational text passages, literary text passages, and take 1 or 2 pieces of information that are on a similar topic and compare them. And on the SAT, there are 52 questions, and students have 65 minutes to answer it. What all of our students did through the Lincoln Literacy Benchmark is exactly that. Fewer questions, same amount of time. It is essentially the critical reading that is assessed through the PSAT and the SAT. And I stand here today saying on behalf of High Point Regional High School, I very much want to see our students do well on the SAT. I think it is a valid indicator of our literacy proficiency, and it propels our students to success in college and career. And I'm hopeful that this does that. I would also like to point out that in one of the 4 meetings that I've had with the entire staff, I gave all of them a copy of the Anchor Literacy Standards. And I believe that there's an adage that is somewhat, it may be offensive, it may be oversimplified, but it is sometimes said that elementary school teachers love their students and high school teachers love their content. And that's somewhat offensive to both groups. Certainly elementary school teachers love content and our faculty loves students. However, high school teachers are particularly passionate about their content area. Like it or not, there are a set of standards that are legally required to be taught in just about every subject. And what we're doing for the next 6 weeks is to take a look at data and to say, how well did High Point students perform at mastering these 9 standards. And then through PLCs to reflect with the staff and say, well, to what extent are we teaching and assessing those standards? How can we borrow best practices from one another? And how can we improve at targeting what all staff at High Point agree is the single greatest academic responsibility we have. So I'm excited that our PLC cycle, which is approximately 5 sessions. Now we're in our 3rd year of PLCs. The literacy-based PLC sessions are 5 sessions where teachers look at their students' results and they collaborate with other teachers about what they're currently doing to address those skills and standards, sharing best practices, and seeing if they can't possibly target areas for improvement. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with the entire staff. It will be my 5th face-to-face engagement with them about this specific topic, and we are excited to see our SAT scores improve, to see student proficiency increase, and to prepare our students even better than they are for the SAT and for college and career. Favorite part of my presentation always is a little snapshot off of social media. Theme this month is our kids knee-deep in their work. They like to, this is I think a reflection of the degree to which our students enjoy what they do in class. They don't just tweet out football and volleyball games, they tweet out what's happening in the classroom. Land art, I didn't know it existed. Kids seem to be enjoying it. A student is reading and writing and tweeting, and we call that old school. And it's still, of course, relevant today. There's a little bit of new school. This was our AP language students who all chose a word for the day, and they adorned the word in some type of decorative jewelry or clothing. And staff were invited to stop the student and ask them what that word means. I believe one of the students is modeling aphorism, which we have the definition right there. So it's a great way to talk about higher level language and to promote literacy, the most important thing that we do. Design thinking is, Ms. McCarthy went to a workshop in San Antonio this summer, and she's doing a lot of collaborative project-based learning focused on this. And some students doing their homework before school starts. And our environmental science students seem to always be outside. I didn't know we had this many streams and brooks, but every day I turn around, they're rolling up their sleeves and heading on it. And that's that. Questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, other business. Do you have anything?
Okay, under curriculum and instruction, the first 3 items don't need any action. The faculty attendance is accepted, the student attendance rate is accepted, and the suspension report for the month of September is accepted. I'm going to move items 4 through 7. And I need a second.
Second.
Okay. 4 is, again, the harassment, intimidation, bullying report. 5 is the curriculum student activities field trip list. 6 is the professional development activities list. And 7 is the very in-depth district nursing services plan. So that's what we're going to move. Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Nantero? Yes. Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Boykin?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conrad?
Yes.
Mr. Veely?
Yes. Personnel, Mr. Dunn.
Okay, I would like to move items 1 through 6 in personnel. First item, the appointment of Gift Carter as a 504 officer. Second item is the advancement on the salary guide for these individuals as listed. Third item is the approval of substitute teachers as listed. the sixth item is a reappointment of a volunteer for school plays. Any questions on items 1? Oh, hold on, I need to make a motion on the second.
Second.
Now I'll ask if there's any discussion or question on items 1 through 6.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Woodcue?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conner?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Veely?
Yes. Okay. Extracurricular, number 1 is the extracurricular appointments as listed. There is a typo on the second one, it should say assistant girls basketball coach. I need a motion.
So moved.
Any discussion on item 1? Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Woodcue?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Ancliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Conner?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro? Yes. Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Veely?
Yes. Okay, we don't have any policy items this month. Negotiations, the board would just like to reiterate what Parliament Cuso said. We had a very pleasant and productive meeting. I hope we move forward and get you guys all wrapped up and happy. All right? So, that being said, we'll move on to buildings and grounds where there's never nothing going on. According to the standards. Yeah,
No, I mean, I'm gonna reiterate what Mr. Talley said, that the fields, the fact that the fields are a disaster and everything keeps moving along in spite of it, that our buildings and grounds crew is taking good care of things. And as you all said, about having, oh, there they go.
Speak it up.
As you all said about having visitors come into our facility, and it knocks their socks off, because it's such a great place. And everybody takes such good care of it and they have such pride in it, so. That's my usual cheerleader comment about buildings and grounds.
So, Chair, yeah.
Nah, it's just something I'm pretty good. And just the West Gym has come along nicely. It's almost,
Yes.
it's almost wrapped up, right? So, it's like,
Okay, we'll move on to finance, items 1 through 16. Item number 1 being we accept the report of the Secretary and Business Administrator. 2 is we accept the report of the Treasurer. 3, we accept the report of the transfers and minimum expense transfer report. Number 4, we approve the payment of the attached and schedule of the bills. 5, we accept the agency account, adult education, athletic account, cafeteria account, principal petty cash, school storage student account. Number 6, we approve contract between Camden County Ed Services Commission and High Point Regional High School. Number 7, recommended that we approve the contract between PRNYPC and High Point Regional. Number 8, recommended that the board approve the following tuition contracts as listed. Number 9, recommended that we approve those tuition contracts between High Point and those districts listed. Number 10, recommended that we approve the disposal of the following item on GovDeals, middle lady. Number 11, that we approve the list of surplus property to be sold through GovDeals. And you can read that at your leisure. Number 12, recommended that the board approve the agreement between Skylands Ice World and High Point Regional for the facilities. 13, recommended that we grant permission to the Sussex Fire Department to host a benefit concert on November 30th, 2018, during the hours of 4 and 10 p.m. 14, recommended that we grant permission to Frankfurt Township School to host a student-faculty basketball game on March 18, 2019, from 6 to 9:30 p.m. 15, recommended that the board grant permission to Sussex Women's Club to host a turkey trot on April 12, 2019, during the hours of 6 to 10 p.m. Apparently it's the place to be. Number 16, we grant permission to Sussex Lawrence Board of Ed to host a fundraiser basketball event on November 1st, 2018, during the hours of 6 to 9 p.m. And a fundraiser volleyball event on February 22nd of 2019 from 6 to 9. So
Second.
Any discussion on 1 through 16? Other than that, this is the place to be.
We charge fees for groups that do not exist within our community. We believe that this is we operated as this, we believe this is the center of the community. We want the community to be able to access it. They pay taxes and they should be able to access it without having to pay fees. Should they, however, have an event that exceeds 100 participants, they are required to pay for security. Also, yes, if they are not within our community, there are fees assessed.
Anything else? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Comer?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Woyku?
Yes.
Mr. Beely?
Yes. Transportation.
Okay, I'd like to move items 1 through 6. Number 1 is recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the following joint transportation agreements for the 2018-19 ESY program with revised route cost as listed. Number 2 is recommended by the superintendent that the board approves to award the following quoted special education routes to the contractor with the lowest quote for the 2018-19 school year as listed. Item number 3 is recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the following joint transportation agreements for routes for the 2018 school year as listed. Item number 4 is recommended by the superintendent that the board approves the following joint transportation agreement for a different special education route for this student in the 2018-19 school year as listed. Item number 5, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approve the following addendum to a contract for additional mileage for the 2018-19 school year due to the addition of a student as listed. Finally, item number 6, it is recommended that the board approve the following quoted contract for trips for the 2018-19 school year as listed. Looking for a second.
Second.
Any questions?
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Comer?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Woyku?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Beely?
Yes. Okay. Correspondence, we have a letter from the state DOE. Does my heart good to read this. It says, Dear Dr. Ripley, on behalf of the New Jersey Department of Education, I wish to extend my gratitude to Mr. Kevin Craig, High Point Regional High School District's Director of Safety and Security and Anti-Bullying Specialist, for presenting on the legislatively mandated topic of harassment, intimidation, truancy, and bullying during the 2018 inaugural School Safety Specialist training hosted by the New Jersey School Safety Specialist Academy. The training was offered from June 25th to June 28th and from August 6th to August 9th, 2018 at 6 regional sites throughout the state. This required a demanding schedule of the training cadre, of which Mr. Craig was an integral member. As a result of Mr. Craig's efforts and those of the School Safety Specialist Academy training team, over 700 educational leaders from across the state will soon receive certification as New Jersey's first school safety specialists. The goal of these sessions was to establish an understanding and appreciation of the necessity to sustain healthy educational environments and to develop and maintain robust safety and security practices within our schools. Mr. Craig was indispensable in addressing the topics of bullying, hazing, and truancy. Kevin's presentations included harassment, intimidation, and bullying, HIB, school safety, school climate teams, HIB investigations, and provided numerous resources pertaining to the Anti-Bullying Rights Act. His content was practical and timely, especially given the need to establish and maintain positive school climates. Mr. Craig's presentations were professional, informative, and based on feedback received, highly appreciated by those in attendance. I am grateful for the collaboration and partnership which exists between the High Point Regional High School District and the New Jersey Department of Education in promoting safe and secure schools, and look forward to further collaboration in the future. Sincerely, Lamont Repellet, Ed Doctorate, Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Education. So congratulations, Kevin. It's well earned, and thank you for all that you do here and everywhere else in the state.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Miscellaneous. The State Department of the Treasury Division of Pensions conducted an on-site census data review of the High Point Regional High School's pension records on September 20th, 2018. The field agent's findings were that all records were in order, all reporting was timely, and had no recommendations. High Point Regional High School presents Our Town by Thornton Wilder on October 26th and 27th at 7 p.m. and October 28th at 2 p.m. in the high school auditorium. All right, public comments on anything. Same rules apply? Nobody? All right. Non-committee board member reports, comments? Anybody on anything? You don't do that anymore. Other business? Nothing like that. All right, I need a motion to adjourn. Motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Sit.